of Directors to order. At this time, we'll have our roll call.
Director Hart.
Here.
Assistant Mayor Roberts.
Here.
Director Harris.
Here.
Director Hollibush.
Here.
Director Brewer.
Here.
Director Hill is absent, and Mayor.
Here. At this time, we'll stand for our invocation, which will be given by Director Stephen Hollibush. Our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by our Fire Chief, David Fletcher.
You'll bow your heads. Lord, we come to you humbly and we thank you for the incredible opportunity and privilege of serving the citizens of Texarkana, Arkansas. God, we pray that you would be with us, that we would have your leadership and your guidance as we make decisions that affect the citizens of Texarkana. Lord, we pray that you would just give us your wisdom and grace as we represent the people of this community. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. At this time, we'll move right on into our citizens communication time. I have 3 cards presented to me in the order that they were given to our Assistant City Clerk. If you wish to address the board tonight and you haven't filled out a citizens communication card, we encourage you to do so. At this time, Ms. Ramona Flowers.
I have to state my name and address.
You can just state your name.
Ramona Flowers, 1217 East 24th Street. And I'm down here complaining about a couple of signs on my property that I've called. This will be the 3rd year that I've called to have them changed, to switched out. It's road signs. One is sign, I brought pictures of it. One's no trailer over 10 feet. That sits about 50 feet back on my property. Down the property line. The other one is right on the corner of my property where you exit off of Jefferson onto 24th Street. And that sign, like I say, it's right on the corner, and these people can't move over. That sign says no trailer over 10 feet can go exit off of Jefferson onto 24th. And the trailers is mostly lawn service people. And that nowadays, their trailer's about 20 feet long, 18 to 20 feet long, plus the truck. And they're still going around that corner. This no trailer over 10 feet tall long should be back in the place where the one says no trucks turn right. And they keep tearing up my corner. And I'm not old enough, I'm too old to get out there and redo that every time they tear it up. They hit those, I had a sidewalk put in front of my house down the street about 40 or 50 years ago, down around the corner. And they get up on that sidewalk up to, and I've gone to H&N and bought rocks to put on that corner because they have so many wrecks tearing it up all the time. I put rocks out there. Well, they hit the rocks and they throw them up all up in the yard and everywhere else. And I'm just sick and tired of it. And I've talked with the Public Works Director. This makes the 3rd year that I've talked to him. He was going to take care of it, and he hasn't. And so I'm ready for somebody. That's why I'm down here. I'm ready for somebody in this city to do. All they have to do is just unscrew one sign and put it on the post behind it. That's all you have to do. Probably take 30 minutes.
We'll look into it.
So I'm just ready for somebody to come out and have that done. And I'm tired of fooling with the Public Works Director with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Deakins?
Good evening to the council members. I'm Bernice Dinkins. Y'all know I live over there on East Side Drive by. Okay. I'm just here to see about the update on the creek. The last time I came here in 2021, at the end of that year, this is 23 now, I was told and I heard that there would be an ongoing update on the creek, but I haven't seen any ongoing updates on that creek except for the grass has been burned or something, which is good. But down in the creek, it is a mess. Now, if I need to take pictures, I will, because if we start getting this rainy season, hurricane season, we're going to have some flooding down there because there's dirt piles in there, there's trees in there. It's a lot of things growing in the creek that need to be dug out. That's all I'm asking. Is that going to be taken care of? Thank you.
Thank you. Can't read that. Ms. Byers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to say first, I am really, really having a problem over on Prospect Street. I called Brian. I started in April to let them know how bad it was over there. So they sold it off to someone with a sign on them, never cut, never do nothing. It's 7 feet directly across the street from me. It's grown up 6 to 7 feet. Next door to me is a lot. It's at least 5 to 6 feet or nothing. So my yard man cut the other day 2 snakes. And one of them he said, "You know what that is?" I didn't know. He said, "It's when they shed and get bigger, their skin." That's what he was showing me. So I called Brian. I started in April. I called Brian. I called Robert, the code enforcement. I called Alan Brown, which Jay Ellington and Alan Brown, when I called them last year, year before last, they was out there in 30 minutes. So I couldn't understand this. So I got up and I've been going to see where the 4 tractors, they only have 4 tractors, he say. And the 4 tractors have to cut the whole Arkansas. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe they need to hire someone. So I saw the job fair. So I'm thinking, oh, they might hire somebody. No, they didn't. I called Tyler. I called Laney Harris, and he talked to me. He came out and looked. It's bad. It is bad. I mean, bad, bad. When it rains, tree limbs fall, big old limbs in the street. My yard man gets them out the street because I can't bag out of my driveway. And it's not the best neighborhood in the world over on Prospect Street, but I've been there since 1974. And I just want to say that maybe they need to hire somebody else, or maybe there's too many chiefs up in the office need some Indians, because somebody to work. Because when you call and talk to 4 or 5 people, I called LaRonda Henderson on May 24th, but I started this in April to talk to them about this. It's getting bad. You know, just getting bad. So they promised me last week, I need to know the rules. He said 7 days. When they give them a letter, they have 7 days. They didn't do it. Then they get 30 more days. Okay, you know it rained a whole lot last month. They gave them 30 more days. Then 30 days is gone. And it's still bad. So the last week when I called, he said, maybe we'll move you up on the list. Don't have to do me no favors, but you need to do your job. Yeah, and I used to work for the city. So I'm just saying, you need to do your job. And I need someone out there to cut as soon as possible. I'm having family reunion next weekend, and it's bad. It's bad. I'm ashamed to have someone to come to my yard. Thank you all.
What was the address, ma'am?
1516 Prospect, and they know me by heart. When I call, they put me on voice thing, and then I go use another phone and call.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board tonight during citizens' communication time? Anyone else? Okay, all right. Hold on, Laney, there is a guy right here, Director. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm David Aiken. I'm David Aiken with I own Red River Wrecker Service, and we've been having trouble on as far as the amounts that we can charge, and we was wanting to see if there's anything we could do about that. I think it's been like that since 96 or 97. We just want to see if there's any way we can get it bumped up.
I think that's on the agenda tonight.
Oh,
I
okay.
think the police department has something they're bringing before the board tonight.
All right.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right. Director Harris?
To the one that wasn't here last board meeting, I'm doing the presentation, and based on the bylaw, the board member only can do a presentation during citizen communication time. They only allow employees or a member of a board or commission doing presentation, which I wonder why do I have to do a presentation. I can't sit up here and do my presentation like you're gonna see two other presentations come before me, and I don't have the opportunity, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And what I was doing about curbs, about the streets and curbs and all this, I guess what I'm finished starting on this is at the curbs at Roberts and on Roberts Street. So, and go to the next one. And what I was trying to show is how the curbs has not been done in a while for years of lack of maintenance. Go ahead, do another. And all these is on Robert Street, Cyril. That's over there in Carmichael Hills area. Do the next one. See, you can see that. You can't tell the difference between the curbs, where the curb begins at and where the side ends at because of years of lack of maintenance there. Go ahead, do the next one. Now this is another section, Arlene and Brammer Street. Go ahead, next one. And you can see now that right there, the street sweeper came through, but they not really doing any justice because if you got years of dirt piled up, basically they not really doing any justice for that. Go ahead next. That's the street sweep still. Now this end where the street is buckling up, which this is that Spring and Prince Street. Go ahead. This is just showing how the street is being buckled up. And I will say this, most of these, if I'm not mistaken, all these issues have been sent to the Public Works prior to me making this presentation. So it ain't like this is the first time Public Works is aware of this. Go ahead, next one. Now this is Logan and Prospect. You can see lack of maintenance on this right here, this area too, and this still over in the Carmichael Hill area. Now this is Drone Street, and it's in where the street is also buckling up for, and I think last time this street was done back in 97 or 98, if I'm not mistaken, from Drone to Pinehurst, and you can see where the street is buckling up. Go ahead, next one. Now this is still from Drone to the railroad track. Now this is Kyle and Seba Street, and you can see the lack of maintenance in this area too, which I'm gonna throw this in too, that at one while the Public Works used to use the CBG funds that does maintenance, does street repair in Low Lamar neighborhood. They seem like they had got away from that, but this in the street repair is greatly needed on Kyle and Seba Street. Go ahead. And you can see how the lack of maintenance, how the street is buckling up there. Next. Now this is Pearl and Cleveland Street. Now, go ahead. Now, for what's significant about this area here, they came within last year, and this was notified July of last year. They came and put chalk around there. You might see a little chalk on the left right-hand corner. Left-hand corner midway there, but they'll come there and put chalk, but they had never came back and did anything. This end was notified July of last year. Go ahead, next one. And this end is in the same area. This is Pearl and Cleveland Street. You can see how the streets is buckling up and pothole and lack of maintenance, that area too, so. And now this is Kirby Street, and you can see where they put somebody put some type of numbers there. Now I don't know what that means, so I don't know if Public Works did that because it's not a square section. But you can notice how someone had came through and notified that. But I know, like I said, I did send Public Works a notification of these areas prior to me doing this presentation before the board. and I guess this Pearline or Arlene Street. But, I'm not gonna bring it, I'm gonna wait to see what the, now, this ends a sidewalk here at 17 Dudley. Now, why I'm showing this sidewalk, what's significant about this? Well, it took almost the city 2 years or 3 years for me to notify how the sidewalk was crumbling up and stuff. And how the sidewalk was crumbling up, and you notice that I asked, well, if you're gonna do the sidewalk, won't you go ahead and do that lady driveway there? What that's all they did, just came there and just packed some rocks there. But when I did the FOI request last year, I noticed that they had did a sidewalk, and somebody, I don't have that with me, but I noticed that it stated that the city did a sidewalk for this person, so it's like they could not do the sidewalk here, but I hope they would go ahead and do this, not sidewalk, do this driveway for this lady here at thing when they do Dudley Street, when they pave that, you know, but I'm just trying to see what was, and I understand that when the workers came, they said that they were just doing what was told of them, but I said it wouldn't cost you no more less money than to go ahead and run a form and do this latest sidewalk here. I know my time is up, and like I said, it's about 30 to 40, I think about 30 slides, so I'm gonna have to keep on doing this for the next 2 or 3 board meetings until I get continued, unless this board want to change the procedure and give me the opportunity, like any other employee, to do the presentation. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board? Anyone else? If not, we'll move into our presentation times. Our first presentation tonight is our Employee Service Awards. We have several. I think I'm told we have at least 2 present. I'll recognize all of them and then have these 2 come present, and I'll present you with your certificate. First, we have Mr. Alan Collins for TAPD for 5 years, Christopher Cagle with TWU for 5 years, Ricky Hernandez with TWU for 5 years, Michael Thomas with TWU for 5 years, and Robert Kunert with TWU for 15 years. Y'all give them a round of applause. At this time, I believe that Mr. Hernandez is here and Mr. Collins is here. Would y'all both come forward? Turn around and let Eric get your picture there. Thank you, sir, for your service. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll have a presentation of the Miller County Hazardous Mitigation Plan. Our Fire Chief David Fletcher and Ms. Katie Hardy from the Southwest Arkansas Planning and Development District.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Directors. I'd like to introduce Katie Hardy. She's with the Southwest Arkansas Planning and Development District, and she is here to pass along some information on the Miller County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Katie.
Thank you. My name is Katie Hardy. I work for Southwest Arkansas Planning and Development. We have been partnering with the county to write the hazard mitigation plan for Miller County. It includes all of the incorporated areas, the incorporated cities, as well as the unincorporated areas. You'll see before you a city profile. Each incorporated city has its own profile, its own section inside the hazard mitigation plan. Mitigation plans are required by FEMA to qualify for hazard mitigation assistance grants at the federal level. It is not a requirement for the state level, but it is for the federal level. Mitigation falls under the Department of Emergency Management. It is the first phase in 4 phases of emergency management, the phases being mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So the purpose of mitigation is to reduce your risk to your citizens and property over a long period of time. So the main purpose of this mitigation plan is to give an overview of your geographic area, profile the natural hazards that occur in your county, and then we do a risk assessment. So what that looks like is I go back all the way to 1950 to the end of 2022, and I pull from about 5 different databases every occurrence of a natural hazard that has happened in your area. And I look at the property damage, the crop damage, the loss of life, the recorded injuries, and I culminate that data to help produce a probability of that hazard happening in the future. And what that does is it tells you what your most expensive hazard is, so what causes the most damage that you have to fix repeatedly, and what are the greatest risks to your citizens. And out of that risk assessment come mitigation actions, which are your strategies for the next 5 years. This plan lasts for 5 years. What we do is we write it. We'll have a period of comment where you can read it, comment on it, where we can make changes if it's necessary, and then we'll submit it to the state for review, and they can send it back to me and the county to comment or change things as they deem necessary. And then once they're happy with it, they send it to FEMA. And they do the same thing. They review it and they send it back to us for changes that they will request. And then I'll come back to you and ask you to adopt the plan. Once it's fully adopted by the cities, that plan is valid for 5 years. So we've reached the end of the 5-year period and we're rewriting this plan. Part of the reason why I printed that city profile out for you is for you to review, and if you see anything that needs changes, this is the time where we're making changes as you see fit. This is your plan. This is what we call a living document. Part of this document's requirements by FEMA is that it is looked at least once a year in that 5-year validation period. For any changes on any progress on mitigation projects or any changes to vulnerabilities in your county, and therefore your city, which may have occurred in that last year. And so changes are appropriate. Every year it's okay to add changes, but we do a full document review and changing of the document every 5 years to then go through the validation process through the state and FEMA again. You also will see or you have already taken a survey. That survey is to prove your participation. Participation is required. We have to provide some kind of proof in a survey. Maybe it's tedious, but it is the easiest way to prove that you indeed participated in the planning process. Because again, this is your document. This is your city. This is your county. We want any and all input from you, from your citizens. The Emergency Management Department for the county posted the QR code for the same survey on their Facebook page for any citizens who would like to provide input. We do take that input into account. I bring that input back before the planning committee, which gives input into the plan prior to the solidification of the mitigation actions and strategies and prior to the time where we submit it to the state. Do you have any questions?
What's the deadline to get the survey and stuff back?
If you're doing the paper survey, I would like it done before I leave tonight. I'm staying the entirety of the meeting as soon as possible, really. We're towards the end of the...
Can you email it or scan it to you, or?
Yes, I can take it with me tonight if you fill out the paper version. If you do the QR code online, it's all automatic. I can see it as soon as you finish it.
And where do you go online to fill it out?
The QR code is posted on the emergency management page for Miller County.
I do have a question.
Yes.
When this is all completed, reviewed, and this helps like the emergency management for Miller County that works
Yes.
with law enforcement, the fire department, planning and zoning. If something wasn't flooding 5 years ago, but it's flooding more, I mean, is this what we're all eventually getting to?
Yes, so if you have an area in mind that you know floods, please tell me, put it in the survey, because we will add that. So this plan, and I'm going to read them off so I don't forget one, covers natural hazards, not man-made, natural hazards. So dam failure, drought, flooding, thunderstorms, tornado, wildfire, and winter storms. And so anywhere that you know that has overgrown brush, that's a fire hazard that needs to be brought to the attention of the county and the city. What it does is it informs the city, it informs the emergency management department. Those mitigation actions, which are in section 4 of the plan, are, again, strategies. So like one of them is to make sure every city is part of the FireWise program, which is part of fire prevention. These mitigation actions and strategies are there to help guide you through that 5-year period, to help reduce the risk by bringing to attention, what do you want to accomplish in these 5 years? Are there grant programs that will give you the resources to help with flooding, to install culverts? Are there programs that you're not currently taking advantage of that you want to put on your 5-year plan to accomplish and participate in for your city?
So once you get these, if there is grants or programs that are available, you will let us know so we can go after those to take care of this situations.
Yes, so the state grant is the period to send in a notice of intent, which is essentially notifying the state of what projects you would like to apply for money for. That has already passed, but it's an annual grant, which comes out in May. It's not always the same day in May, but it's around the beginning of May each year. The federal grants are around August, September. The state grant has a cap of $300,000. So anything beyond that would be the city's responsibility or the county's, whoever's applying for the grant. All of these grants are reimbursement grants, which means that you have to pay for the project up front, but you get 75% of that project cost, all the way up to $300,000 back at the end of the completion of the project, as long as it is completed within what's called the period of performance for that grant, which means you have a deadline to complete that project by and turn in all of the paperwork.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Can you send us a copy of the last mitigation plan
Yes.
from 5 years ago?
Yes. And Michael Godfrey also has access to that, and he's the county emergency manager for Miller County.
What was that name?
Michael Godfrey.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next, we have a presentation of our comprehensive plan. Ms. Mary Beck.
Good evening, Mayor, Directors. This is just a real short summary. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this comprehensive plan winding down. It'll go to the Planning Commission June 13th. And so if anybody has any additional input or has questions, we just want to make sure we're covering the bases. Well, let me see. What the plan does, the general purposes, it's provide tools for the city, for Ready, to the chamber and others. So when someone's looking at doing something in the city, we have something to show them that we have plans. We have gotten analysis of strengths and weaknesses, taken surveys, we have maps for them to look at. We have recommendations that have been provided from the consultants. And so this is just something that's really that's necessary for every city to have. It's actually required, and it's something that we've needed for a while. The water and sewer maps, some of these maps were generated by the city, and other ones like population density. It doesn't show up real clear on there, but every little dot in there represents a person, and you can see where the concentration of population is. This is important if somebody's coming to the city and they're thinking, or somebody that lives here, you know, I'm going to put development somewhere, I want it to be close to people. That might be one of the things they're looking at. The street classification maps, when people are doing development, they want to see these roadways here are very important for bigger projects. You've got your interstate and the Peach. These red lines are basically highways except for Arkansas Boulevard. They're your arterials that are high traffic roadways, and then these green lines are connectors. They connect arterial roads. So if somebody is planning something and they have shipping that's going to be involved, this is information that's handy for them and easy to review format. This is another map that's going to be in a consolidated plan. And this plan will be presented like a magazine. It'll have the maps, it'll have the recommendations, it'll have the survey results. And so this shows over a time period between 2015 and 2022, or 2021, excuse me, where permits have either new construction or repairs. So you can see people are investing in the community. They're and where that investment is represented by the larger dots, or the more frequent investments in those areas. Existing land use map. This is not a zoning map, but it relates fairly close to zoning. You see residential land use in yellow, the red's commercial, the gray's industrial, especially around the airport, and actually around Dudley Street and part of downtown, Cooper Tire, of course, and then the future land use and master street plan. So this is what will give us some guidance going forward. This blue is like business centers, green recreational. These are basically the golf courses. There are some other spots there. But this is a really good planning instrument that's being developed, and just want to make sure that we cover all the bases and people are aware of what it is and what it does and doesn't do. You know, it's not going to, if there's a land use that is in a particular zone, it's not going to change that. It may make recommendations, but those types of changes will have to go through the regular process that the city has set up for changing zoning land uses. Another thing is it doesn't impede conditions. If an opportunity comes to the city and it's a little different than this, but it's what the city wants and what the citizens want, then the plan will adapt to what's best for the city. So it doesn't impede progress. It's just here to assist. So, any questions? Or?
Anybody have any questions?
Has this plan been completed, and do we have access to a copy of it before it goes to planning and zoning?
I think that it's in a draft form, but whether it's in a, you can contact Garver. Juliet.
Yeah.
With Garver. I haven't seen a finalized plan yet. I think it'll be presented to the Planning Commission first, I think, before it's distributed anywhere else.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we had, because these maps are kind of hard to read, and I would like to see a more interactive version. But I think, this has been 2 years of work that we've invested in, so I think we're definitely on the right track to move the city forward.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Moving on into our consent agenda. Tonight, we have item 4, 5, 6, and 7 on our consent agenda. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes of a regular meeting May 15 and a special meeting on May 23rd. Item number 5 is a resolution approving the reimbursement of $37,683 to the Texarkana Regional Airport from our American Rescue Act funds. Item number 6 is adopt a resolution authorizing city manager to enter a contract with McClarty Ford for the purchase of a 2023 F-250 4x4 crew cab for Park and Recreation. Item number 7 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter a contract with Rory Stone Construction LLC for the Blackman Ferry Water Extension Project. What would be the desire of the board for the consent agenda?
Motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve of the consent agenda. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. Moving right on into our regular agenda, item number 8. First item is to adopt a resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into a construction contract with Francis Excavating LLC for Rolling Ridge Drive, Dudley Avenue, and Woodland Road Rehab Project. Tracy.
Good evening, Mayor Brown, Board of Directors. Tyler couldn't be here this evening, so he asked me to present this item. On April the 23rd and the 30th, the city advertised for bids for Rolling Ridge, Dudley Avenue, and Woodland Road. On May the 11th, the bids were opened, and Francis Excavating was the lowest bid in the amount of $958,125.63. Upon opening those bids, it was discussed with the lowest bidder that it would be more financially feasible instead of just spot repairing Woodland Road to base repair the entire road. So that's why you see change order number 1 attached in the amount of $34,317.31, bringing that contract total to $992,442.94. Tyler wanted me to briefly go over the project's scope of work. On Rolling Ridge, there's gonna be base cement stabilization with a 2-inch asphalt overlay, some ditch grading, culvert cleaning, and some culverts will be replaced. On Dudley, they're gonna mill the existing road down 2 inches and install a 2-inch asphalt overlay, concrete curb and gutter replacement, sidewalk replacement, and tree removal. To answer your question, Director Harris, they didn't include any driveways in this project. But Tyler did try to give you a call. If you want to call him back in the morning and discuss that, there is a $200,000 balance for these projects that are not included in the contract. Woodland Road, there's going to be base cement stabilization, which is that change order. The entire road will be done with a 1-inch asphalt overlay, concrete curb and gutter replacement, and culvert repair. Are there any questions?
I've got one, Tracy. On Rolling Ridge, from what I looked at, I want to make sure that does go from 196 to Tennessee.
Correct.
Thank you.
When you say Dudley, where did you start at and where you stop at?
Now that one I do not have, but I will get you that answer.
On the driveway question, is that standard practice to do that, or is that a courtesy that is done sometimes? What is typical for
On the driveway?
rehab and sidewalk repairs to do that little piece of driveway?
Now, on the sidewalks, what typically happens, I'm not sure what happened on this one you brought up, Director, so I don't want to speak on the wrong thing. But we will charge the citizen for the materials, and the city will go out and do it.
Okay.
And the reason why like I said, back when we first done the road repair, they did drive walks all on county and stuff, if I'm not mistaken, and they did concrete on county. When we had that bond issue.
Right, now Paul did.
And they did do resident drive walks, and they didn't go no further up to the city right of way. And
Right.
also, and when I did the FOI request, I don't have that with me, I noticed that the city did do someone drive walk.
Now, I'm not aware of that, so I don't want to speak on
They
that.
did this on my driveway, and what reason behind it, I would have to get, I don't have the FOI request with me, but I know that the city have done someone's driveway.
Now, I know in the past, I don't know about recently, but in the past, we have replaced driveways because our city crew has damaged their driveway. So we went and replaced what we've damaged. And there was an instance, it's been years ago, where a citizen paid us for the materials and the labor outside of the driveway approach, because I'm the one that billed that citizen for that one. Now, in regards to the bond you're referring to, I know there were driveways put in on Arkansas Boulevard, and there were some driveways put in on residential with the bond, but Paul included those with the contract. And I'm not sure why. I'm willing to guess because of the funding that is used that we didn't do private driveways this time.
But Tracy, when you guys do a driveway across someone's, a sidewalk across someone's driveway, you put that driveway back to what condition it was in before we put those walkways in?
Correct. We don't go in and make it better. We put it back to where it was existing.
And I am gonna make it perfect clear, I am talking about the city right of way. I'm not talking about going up on someone's private property, all in driveways based on the location that is on the city right of way, so. But, and I also noticed that when the city did do some over up on Pearl Street, they used asphalt and fixed person driveway, which I thought it was the issue. Why did they end up getting asphalt, but when you did concrete on the other side of town?
Are you talking about when we used the
When you
grant
did those-
money?
Right, when you did those, that pathway to school, when you did from Pearl Street, from College Hill, all the way down to Ferguson Street, you also fixed driveway there, but you used asphalt. You didn't do the concrete there, so.
Right, we didn't do concrete there because those actual driveways wasn't actual real driveways. They were dirt driveways at that time. And putting in the asphalt was a courtesy. We felt like that warranted doing something better than what they had existing.
Any other discussion? If not, I'll have the city attorney read the resolution.
Whereas upon advertisement, a low bid was submitted to Public Works Department by Francis Excavating LLC in the amount of $958,125.63 for the Rolling Ridge Drive, Dudley Avenue, and Woodland Road rehabilitation projects. And whereas after the bid was accepted by Public Works Department, alternatives for base repairs on Woodland Road were discussed with Francis Excavating LLC, and a change order in the amount of $34,317.31 is required and will increase the total contract to $992,442.94. And whereas $1.141 million was budgeted and includes construction and engineering fees, and the funds are available. And whereas the acting city manager and staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the acting city manager is authorized to enter into a contract with Francis Excavating LLC for the purposes set forth above with funding from the sources so indicated. Pass and approve this 5th day of June, 2023.
City attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Second. So have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes, and the resolution passes. Moving on to item number 9 is to adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the acting city manager into an agreement with Cross Ties LLC and Cross Ties of Texarkana, Inc. to create a downtown event venue. Adam?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Directors. This agreement's for Front Street. Basically, we've met with Cross Ties a few times. Mr. Potter's looked at the agreement. some highlights of it is it's with Cross Ties LLC and Cross Ties of Texarkana, Inc. One holds the liquor license and the other is the venue. Cross Ties will pay 25 cents per alcoholic beverage for the first 2 years and 50 cents thereafter. If they sell a beer or beverage for $3.50, that's roughly 7.5% for the first 2 years and 15% after that. If an entity does not desire to have alcoholic beverages sold at their event, they'll notify us on the PFU, so Cross Ties will know that they can't sell alcohol that week or at that event. Cross Ties will receive a 20% discount on the rental of Front Street Festival Plaza. Cross Ties will provide use of a green room to the city in case we have a major event and with a major performer. Cross Ties will be responsible for their own security and staffing at all events. The contract's for 5 years with 5-year renewal option, and Cross Ties will not hold the city liable and agrees to list the city as additionally insured on insurance covering all events. Any questions?
Anybody got any questions? Director Harris?
Why didn't you just do a certain amount, maybe 100, 200, or 50, well, for just selling alcohol, than doing a piece amount?
We've gone back and forth with them a little bit. At first, it was 15%, and they came back with this offer, and we thought it was acceptable.
But isn't that the city property, so
No, it's not the city's property. Cross Ties can only sell on their 2 pieces of property, not on the city's property. The issue is this whole venue will be fenced in. And Cross Ties owns 2 pieces of property inside this venue. So we needed an agreement in place to tell what Cross Ties could do and what we could do.
But why would you fence in their property?
We're fencing in to make a bigger venue, so that's why we have the agreement in place with them.
But I'm still asking, why would you fence in their property?
Their property itself is not fenced in entirely. It's actually going to be open during regular time. It's only closed during events.
But are you going to fence in their property? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I mean, my take is that we need that area to enclose the Front Street stage for concert venues, for ticket purposes and all that. We had to encompass their property as well as 1894, in which we're in the process of negotiating a contract with them. But it's, the big thing, in my opinion, is to get adequate use, to get legal use of that property.
Correct.
So that when we have a venue down there, that we can use their property and we get all this stuff out of the way, and that's the purpose of the contract.
If we don't fence in their property, we can only have 2,500 people maybe. By fencing in their property, we can have 10,000.
Any other questions for Adam?
So is an agreement with 1894 forthcoming?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, we're working on that. And it'll mirror this. Right now, 1894 does not have a liquor license or beverage license for the rail car. So we can't bring that forward yet.
They can't sell inside the.
So that's contingent on them getting a liquor license for that rail car?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we could bring an agreement for that now, but we would just have to amend it when they got their license.
Any other questions? If not, I'd have the city attorney read the resolution.
Whereas the city of Texarkana, Arkansas wishes to create an event venue inside Front Street Festival Plaza for the enjoyment and benefit to its citizens. And whereas Cross Ties LLC and Cross Ties of Texarkana, Inc. own property inside Front Street Festival Plaza. And whereas it is the desire of the city to enter into an agreement with Cross Ties to create an event venue consisting of Cross Ties properties and city properties. And whereas the agreement between Cross Ties and the city provides for Cross Ties to allow the city unlimited use of its vacant lot behind Cross Ties indoor event venue, and the city will allow Cross Ties to sell alcoholic beverages within the Front Street Festival Plaza designated areas, and Cross Ties will pay to the city 25 cents per drink for the first 2 years and 50 cents per drink thereafter for all alcoholic beverages sold by Cross Ties concessions inside Front Street Festival Plaza, among other terms and conditions. And whereas the acting city manager and staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the acting city manager is authorized to enter into an agreement with Cross Ties for the purposes proposed and the terms contained in the attached agreement, passed and approved this 5th day of June, 2023.
City attorney's read the resolution. What's be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion?
Yes, I got one more question.
Okay.
I noticed that too, if a big band unit is coming to town, they normally would have their own stage, their own bus or something in there, so I'm just trying to figure out what would be the, what would, think about something, how would the
The green room?
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily have to use Cross Ties' green room, but it will be available to us in the event that we need it.
And in drafting this agreement, many bigger name bands, if you think about it, they live on their tour bus.
That's what I'm getting at.
And so when they drive somewhere, they want to get the heck off their tour bus, and they want an area provided by the venue where they can set up their, whatever they do in there. And so that's the purpose, and that's the reason it was in the agreement.
Any other discussion?
I have one question, and this doesn't really concern, I guess, this resolution, but what is the progress on getting that fence installed, getting that stage finished? So that we start hosting.
The stage is pretty much complete. We're waiting on the curtain. They're backfilling now for the extra pad. The fence is ordered. They marked it out, so they're just waiting on material for that. Restrooms are almost complete.
All right. Any other discussion?
I've just got an in general beautification question. The Be Like CJ event that they had downtown, and it's on the railroad property side, but the grass up against the fence is like really high. Now, that's not anything that we can do.
Is it on our side of the fence or theirs?
It's on theirs.
That's on them.
So, I mean, we're just kind of at their mercy when
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Right.
Do we have a motion and a second? We do have a motion and a second. Any
Yes.
other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart?
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts?
Yes.
Director Harris?
No.
Director Hollibush?
Yes.
Director Brewer?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. The resolution passes. Moving on to item number 10, to adopt an ordinance amending the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27-.5 for the operation of records and record businesses. Chief Cram.
Good evening. The impetus for this change came when we started receiving some complaints about record bills from some of our citizens who had their vehicles towed after being in wrecks or being arrested or something like this. And when I started looking into it, I found out we had two actual ordinances, one for something called impound records and one for something called emergency records. And they were basically mirror images of each other. There was absolutely no reason for both of them. There were older ordinances. They'd been on books, as one of the fellows said earlier, for 30 plus years. So in my past life, I came across this too, and I rewrote the record ordinance to be very clear. And what I did here was I consolidated the two into one. We have rotation records. So the way it works is we have a rotation list. We actually have two in dispatch in the CRC. One is for heavy-duty records that go out and tow 18-wheelers, commercial vehicles, that kind of stuff. And we don't regulate those. For those guys to even hook up to something, it's all insurance coverage. That's something they work out with the insurance company when they tow for these commercial entities. But what I'm concerned with is towing privately owned citizen vehicles. When they've had a car wreck and they go to the hospital and they don't really have a say in it, when their son or daughter is arrested out of their vehicle and they're wondering how, outside of your house or the place you live, most people rely on their automobile as one of the most important tools they have. It gets them to work, it gets them to take care of their families, and so we want to make sure we make it fair to the citizens that they don't feel like they're being taken advantage of during these times, but we want to make it fair enough to the record drivers so that they make a living. If you look at the costs that were in the original or the existing ordinance as it is now, they could max out at $85 for a tow and $10 a day for storage fees. Every price that those guys pay has tripled at least since that ordinance was written. So diesel's 3 times as expensive as it was back then. They're paying their people probably 2 or 3 times as much for cost of living increases. I was just talking to one of them who told me he just paid over $500,000 just for insurance on his records this year. Those are real dollars. And while I'm not in the business of supporting record drivers for their own good, I think that if they provide a valuable service, they should at least make a living wage off of that valuable service. So I met with all of them, and we went back and forth over what they considered a fair limit. The state set certain limits. I wanted to make sure that we were not just setting the max limits for our citizens. And so what we agreed to was $50 a day for storage, flat rate, and then $200 for a tow. If they have to call out a second wrecker, they can charge for that second wrecker to come out. That's not unusual if you have something that happens way off road or something like that. But now we have a fixed rate, and what I did was I attached it to a fee schedule so that it doesn't change. It doesn't have to come back as an ordinance change to you guys if we want to change the fees. And that fee schedule is in here so that we can discuss what you guys think is a fair amount to be charging the citizens for these services. 2 of the wrecker owners are here to make their case in case you have any questions for them. But that's the history of how this came to be.
I guess I got a question. Under what circumstance are they be utilizing rec? That means that, let's say for instance, police stop someone and someone's being arrested, that's they on the rotation list being called. But just say for instance, if you're on the side of the road and the police stop and try to assist you, would you have the right to call your own record and not utilize let the police call a record? Or what if the police said, well, we're gonna call a record?
I know what you're asking. What we call it is a non-consent tow versus a consent tow. So non-consent means you don't have a choice.
Right, okay.
The cops are calling a wrecker for you. That if you're incapacitated in an accident, or if you're in a wreck and you don't know who to call, we can't legally recommend that you call anybody. So we have a list of rotation wreckers that change every week. So we have, I think, 5 wreckers on the light duty list right now and 4 on the heavy duty. And they stay on rotation for a week at a time. And so if we arrest you out of the vehicle, it's not uncommon that an officer will call for someone to come get your vehicle, or if you have a second driver in the vehicle who's a licensed driver who can take care of the vehicle and drive it away, it's not uncommon the officer will let somebody drive that away. If the vehicle is going to be searched extensively, typically the officers are going to tow the vehicle and it will be impounded. So in that situation, this ordinance would apply. But this is only for non-consent tows. That's it.
Go right ahead.
Are these rates pretty in line with what they would charge the average citizen if they were called out to tow a vehicle?
You'll have to ask them, because the state sets the max rate and they can charge up to the max rate for the state. Do you want one of them to come up?
Is that pretty consistent with what you would charge a citizen if they called you just to come to the house and pick it up? Yes.
All bets are off if it's an 18-wheeler or something like that, because those runs into the several thousands.
Yeah.
And those are all insurance things anyway, and we're not going to get involved in that. There's too many moving parts.
So we're going from an $80 tow to a $250 tow, from a $10 day to $50.
$85 to $200. $10 or $25 a day, depending on inside storage or outside storage, to a flat $50 a day for a 24-hour period.
Now, Chief, if they have, which I'm not familiar with all the towing companies, I am Bubba Green, but if some of the companies don't have the equipment, like say they're on call, are they able to partner with another towing company to get, I mean, I know it's not going to be an 18-wheeler, but do they all have the equipment that would handle what needed to be handled?
So the state towing regulations regulate all the equipment that needs to be on a record, the size of the records, everything else. We don't put that in the ordinance. We put in the ordinance that they have to be compliant in all respects with the towing regulations. Because as those things change, we don't want to revisit our ordinance every time. The heavy-duty wreckers are just that. Those are those big 18-wheeler wreckers that you see. Those are on a different rotation list. If they call for a heavy-duty wrecker, the dispatchers go to that rotation list. If the only reason we would have a situation where one of the wreckers would call for another wrecker is if we've got multiple vehicles being towed all at once and they don't have the ability. Because otherwise, they're eating into somebody else's income.
Sure.
And I hear about it. So we try not to do that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions?
How is this listed for a, I hope that this is not trying to get passed tonight, is that's how this listed for emergency? Because I would want the citizen to come and weigh in on this process, come out going from $89 to $200. You know, I would like to see the citizen have an opportunity, once they find out. I don't want to come and they read the paper tomorrow, that they look at the Facebook Live posts and find out that they get arrested, their car get towed, it's gonna be $200. You know, I would like to have a little, than myself, but I would like to see some input on this. And I also did notice, I seen a sign somewhere that in-town tow anywhere of $50. I know I seen a sign somewhere, but that doesn't have nothing to really do with this. This is based on arrest, right? That you get arrested.
Arrests, wrecks, that kind of stuff.
Or you're in wrecks, okay.
And keep in mind, for most wrecks, insurance companies pay that.
Okay.
So we don't hear about that money usually doesn't come out of the citizen's pocket anyway.
Okay, and my other question is, does the citizen have the right to tell where their car could be towed at if it's a wreck, or they automatically got to tow it to the tow yard?
They typically tow it to the storage facility unless they're towing it to a repair place. And if they're towing it to a repair place, once again, that ends up being on the insurance company typically.
But what I'm asking, is it written in this ordinance or whatever that the citizen got a right to tell them? Let's say if I was in a wreck and they said, well, we're gonna tow it to our tow pass, and I want you to tow it over here on this commercial property somewhere.
They can't do that unless they're going to pay them at the time. They would have to pay them at the time to drop that vehicle over there.
Because you'd have a security.
Because otherwise, there's no recourse for the wrecker owner to be able to get paid.
Right.
If they don't possess the car, they're not going to have recourse to get paid.
Correct.
The $200 and the $50 is a number for you guys to start at. If you're not comfortable with it, make them prove it. That's why they're here. Make them fight for it. But I can tell you that I don't have any love lost one way or the other. I'm ambivalent to the record companies. They provide a service that we need. I recognize that. And if they're going to provide that service, they ought to be able to do it at some sort of profit. At an $85 tow and a $10 storage, they're not making a profit.
Well, somebody that gets towed for a DWI, that's going to be their own fault anyway. I don't have any.
Most of the tows are the fault of the people involved in the tow.
Maybe it'll defer them from breaking the law.
Well, once they get that car
it's one way.
Time, it might stop them.
It's one way, and I didn't write these figures to be a legal deterrent of any kind. This is simply so that the companies want to stay on our rotation because they're making some sort of profit from it.
Any other questions? Prior to the vote, if there's a vote tonight, you would be, there would be given an opportunity prior to adoption for anyone to speak. So it's got to be read 3 times tonight to pass anyway, so. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. I remind the board, this is an ordinance. To pass tonight, it would need to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its first reading?
First reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read in abbreviated form on its first reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 27.5 of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances to update the pricing and language governing the operational requirements of record businesses and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its first reading in abbreviated form. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading?
Second reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 27.5 of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances to update the pricing and language governing the operational requirements of record businesses and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So a motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
No.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 27.5 of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances to update the pricing and language governing the operational requirements of record businesses and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading tonight. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask you about this. Are you saying that if I had a bridge, okay, you rotate, the people that y'all chose to rotate, even my brother owns a record service, I can call him?
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
You would have the choice to call a record as long as he could get there in a quick time so we could clear the roadway. If it's blocking the roadway, we have time constraint to clear it for traffic. But as long as you've got somebody you can call, if they can get there within 30 minutes, they can tow it.
Okay.
These are for non-consent tows, which means we make a call. And you tell us at the time, no, I don't have a preference on a record. We call it out.
If I say, I got someone.
If you have somebody who can come tow it, they can come tow it.
That's what I mean.
Ms. Beck?
I had a question about the fees. You said the fees could be raised without an ordinance. What specific language is there on that? I'm sorry.
Well, it should be a fee schedule attached to the back of the ordinance to where it can be done by resolution, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yes.
So they don't have to reconsider the entire ordinance. It's just a
But it
resolution
still
vote.
goes before the board?
Absolutely it does.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
No.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes, and the ordinance passes. Our last item tonight is item number 11, to adopt an ordinance to rezone a tract of land located at 3604 North State Line Avenue from C3 Open Display Commercial Zoning to C1 General Retail Commercial in order to divide the property. Ms. Beck?
Oh, this is a pretty simple rezoning. That Mr. Patel owns the property that encompasses this area here, right here. A hotel and 2 restaurants. This is Lee's China, and this was Doc Alexander's for a while. And Mr. Patel wants to sell off 15,000 square feet of his property, and not more than that, because he wants to retain the parking that he has for the hotel. And in order to do that, he would need to have a different zone for this property because the C3 zoning requires 20,000 square feet per lot. And he has that much property, but like I said, he wants to keep the parking that he has. So this rezoning is basically to accommodate the sale of that property because the Lee's China, who's been leasing that restaurant for years and years, would like to purchase it. So it's, they've have all the agreement in place. It's just a matter of the land has to conform to the zoning for this to go through.
Are they purchasing Lee's Chinese and the building beside it, Mary, the whole corner there?
Yes, sir.
Are they looking to expand?
Well, they haven't, I asked them about that, and they said they haven't decided yet. They're going to continue to operate Lee's China. They may expand into that other building. So, as you can see, the zoning all around it is C3. This is Texas over here. There's some apartments here behind the hotel. Albertsons is to the north, and there's Pizza Hut. We haven't had any opposition to this. It's pretty straightforward, and I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Beck?
So this would stay at C3. We're just making
The
adjustments so that they can have a smaller plot?
This property right here where the two restaurants are would be C1, general retail.
Okay.
And both land uses are allowed in both of those zones, C3 or C1, but they have different requirements for areas.
Okay.
Next.
Any other questions? If not, I remind the board, this is an ordinance. What would be the board's desire to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
First reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Motion second, abbreviated form.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K-286 as amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Just have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Director Hart,
Yes.
Assistant Mayor Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Hollibush,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes, and the ordinance passes. At this time, we move into Board of Directors' commentary. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board tonight?
Yes, I got a question to ask the city attorney. It was going to our code, our board policy and procedure, which I gave reference to about a presentation. So, if you notice, I was doing the presentation, which I was only subjected to civil communication thing. And I'm not trying to say nothing bad about you ladies. They did the hazard presentation thing, but the point I'm trying to make is this here. She was allowed to do a presentation but she's not a city employee. She's not on no board, even though what happened was, the fire marshal, introduced her, then she started doing the presentation. So, but based on our policy procedure, only a member on the board of commission can do the presentation. Only a city employee can do a presentation. So if I get up there next week and have an employee to introduce me, I can do a presentation during presentation time, or how does that work? Or was the law somewhat circumvented?
That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Now, you could request to be put on the agenda.
I did.
Okay, well, I think
I was, when I started this last board meeting, I was requested to put on the agenda.
Okay.
But according to the policy, a board, only an employee or a member of a board of commission can do a presentation. No one else, a citizen cannot come in and do a presentation. Nobody cannot do the presentation. I know I didn't ask a point of order during her presentation, but yet she was introduced by the fire marshal. But so what is the? But ma'am, I'm not trying to get at you.
I was just going to provide insight about
Okay.
how I got on the agenda, if that's helpful. If it's not helpful, I can not speak.
Okay.
So I called about a month ago, maybe a little bit more than a month ago. I called the mayor's office. They patched me through to a few different people. The city emergency manager, I do the same presentation in all incorporated cities within the county that I'm writing the plan for. Someone else came and heard the emergency manager for the city came and heard the exact same presentation I did, but I did it for a different city within Miller County. So they had a preview per se. So they heard the presentation before I gave the presentation today, if that makes sense.
I'm not at you about it's about the policy that saying that me as a board member, I couldn't do a presentation. I got on regulated facilities communication time. We have a policy said that no one cannot do a presentation unless you use a board of commissioner, unless you use an employee. That's what I'm getting at. I'm not at you about your presentation. I thought maybe it was a good presentation. I think the public was aware. Mine is just what was put in place, and it's not fair. I'm gonna go ahead and use the word. It's not fair to me as a board member, and that's basically what I'm trying to say. It's not nothing to do against you. No, we had the same issue when Reddit came up and tried to do a presentation, and I asked and I brought up the same concern. So, and I'm letting the city attorney, if he's not aware of that, let him know that that based on our policy and procedure, that no one can do a presentation. I did email, if I'm not mistaken, I did email you when I did put this request on the agenda. If I'm not mistaken, I CC you in when I did the clerk and you, if I'm not mistaken, so.
I don't recall that, but I'll look into the rules and regulations regarding
In reference to that?
employee and presentation time and why you can't do that.
I would, in reference to Mr. Harris's request, can we look at amending that so that board members can present presentations, or allowing that so that it is done during board commentary time? Whichever would be more appropriate, or which would be amicable to Mr. Harris. I would be open to having any board member that had a presentation, have the right to present that to the board. I don't see any issue with that.
Okay, it was done, none of y'all was up here when this was passed.
I'm good with it, Laney.
It was back.
I agree with you, Laney.
It was back in 2017.
I think while you're at it, why don't you just amend why we can't speak back to the citizens during citizens communication?
I think that was into a freedom of information. No, not freedom of, but that would be a First Amendment thing because issue 2, and that was put in place back when Ward 3 was up for re-election before Mr. Hollybush came, and they didn't want nobody to come and say nothing against that director. So that's when that was put in place, and I was up here. So it was put in place when up during the election year. It was keeping someone from coming here and getting on Ward 3, about some things what was going on in his ward. So that's when that was put in place.
Hey,
That doesn't serve no rationale, none whatsoever. What's that?
Let me state this right here. We have board directors commentary. Why can't we just utilize that time to make the presentations? I mean, it's not time like the citizens, commentary. So we have a forum to do a presentation. Why can't we just use it at that time?
I'm just trying to follow what was put in place to get at me. To make the show.
I mean, I think what Director Harrison, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying, whether we utilize the board of directors commentary for you to do that, the process we have in place right now is being sidestepped, right?
Yes,
We've got folks making they got folks making presentations that are not really supposed to be doing those presentations per whatever rule or whatever we have. So whether he does it, Director Brewer, at board of directors commentary, he's bringing up that there's still a point that needs to be addressed about who can do a presentation to this board and who can't.
Yes, I'm tracking that.
Yeah,
I think we still have the opportunity to do our part.
Sure, but I think there's still a thing to address there.
Yes, I agree.
I'll look that up and get back to you, Director Harris, and same with you, Director Hart, on the communication aspect of it.
And ma'am, one more time, this not against you. Your presentation was great. So, and we learned a lot. It was just what was put in place. And I plan on talking to you about your mitigation form after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I do have one thing. At our last board meeting, we talked about the potholes that are running rampant throughout their city. And I know Tyler put out a request for proposal. I spoke with him today. He got one bid back. And it was the estimate that he got for us, $180,000. I know originally he had said that it would take about 6 weeks to do these repairs, and now they're saying it would take 4 weeks. And so if we can get this bid accepted, it will take them about 2 weeks before they can begin work. So I would like to ask the board to entertain possibly scheduling an emergency meeting tomorrow or Wednesday or as soon as possible so that we can get this process started and get these potholes filled.
I agree.
As long as it's after 4 or 5.
For the monies, what line item allocation would these monies be coming from?
So this would come out of our fund balance, which would be about 3 days of fund balance. Last I checked, we were at 65 days. The minimum that we need to stay above is 60 days. So this would put us at about 62 days of fund balance. And this is, from what I understand, this company will come in, they will fill our potholes, and they give us a 1-year warranty on this repair work, which this does a couple of things. This frees up our road crews to do other things, like some drainage repairs and some other maintenance that needs to be done with the streets. And this gets us on top of the issue, because at the rate we're going, our street crew can do about 3 or 4 potholes a day, which would take us, 2 years to catch up minimum?
You're never going to get caught up.
So we won't ever get caught up. So I think, 3 days of fund balance is a good investment.
I think if we do meet to discuss that, we need to follow up with finance to make sure those funding days is going to be actually 2 or 3 to make sure that we don't fall too low operationally.
Yeah, can we get with Tyronda in the morning?
We can, absolutely.
Before we call because I don't know anything about the fund balance.
Well, can we schedule a meeting for Thursday then? Because we would know, I mean, she could email us tomorrow the exact days that it would be.
5 years ago?
Well, I think we'd have the answers by midday tomorrow if we really wanted to get this thing rolling. The sooner the better, in my opinion. If Thursday is the soonest that works for everybody.
Yeah, but don't you have to, you have rules of 24 hours to be
It's
the.
2 hours.
It's 2 hours?
It's for an emergency meeting, yeah.
Greg, be on standby.
5 o'clock tomorrow?
I'm for that.
Does that work for everybody? 5 o'clock tomorrow, does that give time? Mr. Harris? any thoughts?
Let's see.
I got AAU practice from the kids, but yeah, it shouldn't take us long. I'm happy with that.
Any other comments?
Junior, would you be able to send an email to like the one, all of us, because I know Danny Jewell's not.
He's gone. He's
Okay.
gone.
What do you mean gone?
He's vacationing.
Gone?
No, he's not vacationing. He's work, but it's so, he didn't go into detail with me about where
Good
he's
enough.
going.
Any other board commentary? If not, I remind the board, our next meeting will be Tuesday, June the 20th. Monday, June 19th is a federal holiday. We'll be meeting on Tuesday, the 20th. Having said that, at this time, the board will go into executive session and excuse all guests to consider a couple of commission appointments.
See, beautiful.